As an educator, it is extremely important to collect data on our students to see how they are doing and see how our instruction should change based on how our students are doing with the specific standard or objective that we are learning that day. When we transitioned to online and remote teaching, it was difficult to understand exactly what it looked like to collect data. Through my year and a half of teaching online, these are some of the tools that I have used and ways that I've used them to collect data on my students. So, the first thing that I use frequently is Google Sheets. I use Google Sheets for grades and attendance. I use many of their formulas for percentages. Um, I also use their conditional formatting so I can see easily how each student did. So conditional formatting changes the color of the cell, and you can create it to have different colors based on the percentages. So most of our goals with our standards is for our students to get 80% or higher. So I set that to a color of green. And then from 79 to about 68, I have in a yellow. And then 68 and lower, I have as red. So my students who are in the yellow zone are getting closer to their goal. My students who are green have reached the goal, and my students are red who are red have not reached the goal. So as a teacher, this gives you the opportunity to see where your students are and how you should change your instruction, what standards needs to be retaught. It's a great tool to use in the classroom in general, and I really began using it mostly when I was teaching remotely. And it's also easily shared. So if administration needs to see grades of a certain student, I can share that easily. If I have a special education teacher who's getting ready for a reassessment meeting for one in particular student, I can share that information of how they're doing on their assessments in class pretty easily. So Google Sheets is one of my favorite tools to use. This year, I had the opportunity to switch schools and be in a different role this year. So I had the opportunity to start using Google Classroom. I have to say, I'm very impressed with how easy it is to use. Um, when creating assignment, all the grades are connected to the assignment. So you can see how each individual student did, while also seeing how your class did as a whole. It's very easy to use. I'm still learning, so I don't have a lot of tips and tricks for Google Classroom at this point, but it is a great way that I'm collecting data this year. Last year, my school used a mostly synchronous format for learning. So we used Zoom quite often. So I used a lot of their features to help me understand how my students are doing in the classroom. One of the major features I used was the chat feature, and I use this as a checking for understanding. So I would have students type to me their answers, similar to how they would write out on an exit ticket. As the lesson is going and my students are asking and answering questions, we used the emoji feature. So it's a reaction feature on Zoom where you can click on the different emojis. They have thumbs up and thumbs down. They have different facial reactions that the students can post, and it'll pop up right next to their video. I use this a lot with the thumbs up and thumbs down. for a lot of agree or disagree questions to see where my students are, true or false questions. Sometimes I would give them two different options. Option one would be thumbs up, option two would be thumbs down. And based on that, I could decide what needs to be retaught in the moment before we get to the end of our lesson for that day. Another great feature on Zoom is their polling feature. So you can create all different kinds of polls. I use this kind of as an exit ticket. Um, it's ends up being like a multiple choice question, and you can have multiple questions on your polling feature. I kept it down to about two, maybe three questions. Students would answer the question, submit their answer, and Zoom actually tells you how many people from the whole meeting has answered the question, so you have an idea of when to reveal the answers. When you reveal the answer, you'll see the different percentages of each student. Um, Not each student, I'm sorry. You'll see the percentages of the whole class. Later on, when the meeting is finished, you can download the answers that each participant has answered. As long as they are logging on with their school email, you'll know exactly who answered what, and you can actually use this for grading purposes. Just make sure that they are signing on with their school email, or it is hard to track down which student answered. Another great tool that is actually a brand new tool that my previous school was able to try out last year is called Edlight. So Edlight is a great tool if your school is using packet-based work. So the students are able to submit their work by using pictures. So they can do this on their phone or from their Chromebook. So it gives them a countdown and they can take the picture of their work. The pictures at first came out a little blurry until the students got used to it. There was also a few little kinks in the system that Edlight has fixed since we started. Since it is a brand new company, they are very willing to listen to constructive feedback. And they actually have changed some of the features based on the feedback we gave them last year. So this is a cool tool to use. It has students take pictures. It allows for instant grading, so you don't have to wait for submission for students to bring work back. Um, you can record directly on the work and write on the work. This would work best if you're doing it on a tablet or on a touch screen computer. There's also features where you can record your voice for the students who cannot read yet. You can send the work back to the students and have them resubmit. Students are able to also submit for multiple classes. So if you are in a school that is departmentalized, students are able to enroll in more than just one class. So that's a nice feature too. Okay. Lastly, I love doing anecdotal notes. So I create many checklists based on different standards and objectives, and I just check off which students have achieved and put an X next to the students who still need to continue working on that standard. Um, I also take quick notes such as writing down the students who are struggling or the ones who need more of a challenge. So making sure that we are giving the students what they need. And that could be for a struggling student or a more advanced student. We should be meeting all students where they are. And then just writing down any of the common misconceptions so I know what to teach tomorrow. So these are my 5 tools that I like to use in the online classroom. Please feel free to share it with other people and let me know if you have any tools that you like to use. Thanks for watching.